I'm going to declutter my entire house. Now, I already did a video where I did this with my entire house, but it's time to do it again. And what could be a better reason than having guests over in a few days? So let's get started. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the steps to maintain a tidy and decluttered home. Unfortunately, decluttering isn't just a one-time thing, but rather an ongoing process. If we haven't met before, my name is Dr. Julia Raz. I'm a professional organizer and owner of Golden West Organizing. I'm also a communication professor and a mom of two, and I totally understand how hard it can be to try to balance all of the things going on in your life. I hope that you'll feel inspired and motivated today, and perhaps even declutter an entire room of your home along this journey. All right, so let's get started in this kitchen. No, my home is not perfect. That's the first thing that I wanted to share with you. As you can see, I still have a lot of stuff and I do enjoy stuff. I think sometimes people assume that because I identify as a minimalist, I'm going to have nothing or that my entire house is going to be neutral, but that's not the case. So when it comes to maintaining a tidy and decluttered home, it means that we actually have to continue reviewing the items. So you'll see in some of the spaces that I work in, I do recommend pulling everything out and taking a look. But the first thing you're going to do after you've done an entire declutter of your home, when you want to reset it, is to open each drawer, each cabinet, and peek and take a look at everything that's there. Make sure that these are things that you actually use, things that you need, things that you actually have space for, and things that you enjoy. This art cabinet is a great example of when I needed to actually pull every item out. I couldn't even see all the way to the back, and what I found is that there were a lot of supplies that were really dried out and crusty and just needed to go into the trash. And this wouldn't have happened if I didn't pull everything out. But you'll find that in some of the spaces that you do need to open up, you'll be able to just take a look in and glance, because not too much probably has changed since the last time around that you've done this. To be honest, I probably declutter at least once a month in my own home, and I like to schedule free donation pickups whenever possible. That makes the process so easy, and I don't want to store things in my trunk and then just drive around with them for months. And unfortunately, even though I'm a professional organizer, I definitely have done that before. But these free donation pickups, if they have them in your area, I highly, highly recommend it. So although I'm not saying each of these questions to myself out loud, in my head, I am thinking through whether or not I use each of these items and whether I have space for it. Now, as we can see, I do have space for the items, but I am finding that a lot of things that I'm going through are not things that I actually use. And when it comes to a pantry, or this is the case for a medicine cabinet as well, it's really important to take a look at expiration dates as well. So even though I've done this relatively recently, I still was looking at each of my items in there. And one of the things that I noticed is that I had an excess of organizing product. I do get a lot of organizing products sent to me for free as a professional organizer, which is a huge blessing, and I often try to give that to my clients. And I noticed that I had a bunch stored in the back that I wasn't using and hadn't used in months. So all of that came out, and I was so happy that I would be able to give that away. Overall, the systems that I had set up were working quite well, and I'm very happy that I've been able to maintain it. I also have really transitioned to eating more fresh food, and so that's meant that my pantry has changed. So I have needed to just go through and toss some of the items in here that are no longer suited for my lifestyle. And it's really important, as you are going through for doing a refresh of your home, to think about your life today. Not your life 6 months ago, not your life 5 years ago, but your life today. And that means that you have to be really honest with yourself with everything that you are doing, even if it may not feel that great to have to let things go in the moment. You just want to be honest with who you are. The bottom portion of this pantry is actually where I store my pots, pans. It's where I store some Tupperware, the few canned goods that I have, as well as some of the travel supplies that I use when I go to work for storing my food, as well as my son's food. So here's a look at what it looks like after I did the refresh of that space, and it's looking much more streamlined. I'm very happy with it. Here's an example of some drawers that overall were already working for me, and the systems that I set up made it really easy for me to find everything. And so don't be discouraged if when you open some spaces you find, oh, I actually am going to keep all of this. That means that you've been doing a great job with your decluttering and only keeping the things that you truly need and use. Even still, I was able to find a few items that I no longer needed, and this drawer in the bottom desperately needed to be vacuumed. It's where I store my extra placemats, and I found that there were just a ton of crumbs going on in there, so it really felt good to vacuum it. Here's where I keep some spices and oils and my tea. The shelf that I probably go to the most is my tea shelf, and I have this fantastic tea organizer, so I just put some of the loose boxes of tea into the organizer and just did a little bit of tidying there, but it already was working quite well for me. Here's another example of organizing product that was just there. I don't really need it though, so I decided it was time to let that go. This cabinet I had worked on really recently. You may have seen it in another one of my videos, so that one was pretty good as is, and I think I'm just going to move on to the next space. It's 9:27. Here's a look at everything that we got rid of from the kitchen in a little less than an hour. Now it's time to go through this console table that serves as a utility drawer. I prefer to use the phrase utility drawer over junk drawer because we really shouldn't be keeping anything that we consider junk in our homes. And the other drawer in there was already in really good shape, so I worked on this drawer, which held a lot of my physical therapy items and some other random things. And just make sure that if it's a space that you need to access all the time, that everything is actually really visible for you, because I realized there were some keys in there that I had been looking for that I just couldn't find. And so now it's so much better and easier for me to find things. It's 9:41 and I just finished getting through this console table with the utility or junk drawers. This isn't as bad as it looks, I promise. This is my household supply closet, and a recommendation that I have for you for keeping this clutter-free: no, you don't need to have fancy shelving. Just make sure that you can see the exact amount of everything you have so that you're not buying any extras. And so for me, I just kind of tidied it up so that everything was really clearly visible for me. The things that I need to see all the time, such as the toilet paper and paper towels, are now really easy for me to see exactly how much I have. Another pro tip I have is to have a donation box near the back door and make it something cardboard so that it can be just donated along with those items. Now onto my bedroom. I personally like to pile all of my clean laundry onto the bed so that I make sure I put it away. I know that it can be tempting just to shove it back onto the ground, but I find that when I dump it onto the bed, put away my laundry basket, it really motivates me to get it done. Now, your side table next to your bed, if you have one like me, this is something you want to remember to keep going through. It's very easy for this area to get cluttered again because it's really out of sight, out of mind. And I found a lot of the clients that I work with just keep continually over the course of a year or years shoving stuff into these drawers. So it's worthwhile to pull everything out and to take a look and make sure it's things that you actually need and use and actually want to keep in your life. Now, I go through my clothes pretty regularly, and I do consider myself quite minimalist in my wardrobe. So most of my clothes, if not all of them, are going to stay. I think I actually only end up donating one sweater in the course of going through all of this, but I did pull out a bunch of excess hangers that didn't need to be there, and that helped to make a lot more space in this closet. I also went through one of my handbags. I don't know the last time you went through one of your handbags to pull out anything that was like expired product, but it's worth checking it out. Now to under my bathroom sink. I've organized this a bunch of times, and yet somehow I still end up with things that I never used down there or are expired. And so I ended up having a lot of trash down here, and it's just a reminder to not forget about these spaces underneath your sink, or when it comes to makeup or anything like that. Check out the expiration dates, and hopefully that will inform your purchasing habits in the future. I know it's always a reminder for me to be very mindful about the things that I buy so that I'm not putting anything to waste, because I really don't want to be keeping things that I don't use. As you're seeing, my makeup drawer, and this is makeup and dental, it's so minimal and I love it this way. This is just who I am and how I am, and all I really needed to do was to give the drawer a wipe down. And this is true with my hair drawer as well. I just needed to clean out some of the excess hair from that space. And so what you'll find as you go through on a maintenance session like what I'm doing today is that some spaces really don't need much work at all. It's just that they may need to be cleaned a little, but not necessarily decluttered. Now, onto my travel drawer. This drawer was a hot mess. I don't know about you, but somehow I accumulate a lot of travel size items over the course of a year or years. And as I was going through the expiration dates on these items, I found that some of them had expired years ago. I was like, what the heck? I know that I've gone through my whole house before and it hasn't been that much time, but somehow these still have accumulated. And so I kept one of each of the travel size items of the things that I'm actually going to use on an upcoming trip. Side note, that travel bag there, I've had that since middle school. I can't believe it, but anyway, I have something new now, so it was time to let that go. Here's a look at all of these spaces in my bathroom that I went through. They do look nice and tidy now, and I'm so pleased about that. Another thing that I like to mention with these types of in-drawer containers, sometimes I recommend using museum putty to stick them down, but in my opinion, when it comes to bathrooms, I don't like to stick them down because I want to take them out and wipe down the drawers whenever I need to. Okay, now onto my daughter's bathroom. Let's take a look. It's 10:44 right now. My son is sleeping, and I'm going to try and get through this bathroom, which is right next to his bedroom, and see what I can get out of here. There isn't very much underneath this sink, but I'm sure that there are some things that we don't need. Most of the items underneath this sink did in fact stay, and if you're anything like me and have multi-use spaces with lots of people using it, and this bathroom is not only used by my kids, but also if we ever have any guests staying over, I personally recommend having a separate bin for the different people that may be using the space, because that makes it really easy just to pull it out depending on who is using it. Unfortunately, this bathroom doesn't have any drawers, so I have to do what I can with the space that I have. I just made a lot more noise than I thought I was going to. It seems like Liam stayed asleep though, so we're okay. Another tip that I have for you when doing a refresh session is to keep your cleaning to a minimum. Yes, I needed to wipe down some of the surfaces that were just really, really grimy, but in general, I am not focusing on cleaning at all while I'm going through my house. I am focusing on trying to declutter and tidy the spaces. And sometimes if you try to do all of it at once, it's just too exhausting. So be mindful of that as you're going through each of the spaces. Now we're working on my linen closet, which isn't a very large space, but definitely needed another glance from the last time that I had organized it. I really love these organizers that you see here so much. The only thing that I really need to add on is labels. Now, it's been almost 2 years since I made my whole house organization video, and finally now I'm putting the labels on these bins. In general, I don't like sticking labels all over my house, and in general, when I'm working in someone else's house, I don't label things to excess because I think words are just kind of visual noise, and it just clutters the space visually. However, when it came to this product, I needed to add in the labels because I really couldn't see what anything was inside of those bins. Now moving on to the kids' room refresh. Now, if you have kids like I do, this is an area that I have to maintain every single day. Yes, you heard that right, but it isn't as hard as it might sound. The first thing that I needed to do was remove all of the Legos. If you're a parent and you've ever stepped on a Lego, you know how painful that can be, so those things needed to be put aside first. After that, I went ahead and made the bed. I have been making my bed every single morning my entire life. I just find that I feel so much better with a made bed, and it's a great way to see a really quick visual change. I do recommend, whenever possible, tidying with your kids present so that they can learn how to do that. And although sometimes my daughter will tidy her room on her own, it still gets like this every single day. And so what I like to do at the end of the day with my kid is to have her help me tidy the space so that the next morning it doesn't look like what you see it like right now. Now, it still is going to happen sometimes. Nobody is perfect, but that's a big tip that I recommend for you. Another thing that you're seeing me do is to move clothes seasonally. So things that either she's not wearing right now or are meant for a different climate, I'm moving them to a higher shelf that she can't reach and putting the items that she is wearing currently in reach. And if you are really low on space, you can also remove all of those off-season items and put those in a separate bin so that you're prioritizing the hanging space for things that they actually can wear now. I'm now tidying some of the other areas in her room. I found this wrapper in her room for an ice cream bar that definitely wasn't supposed to be there, but hey, at least it's going in the trash now. And I did pull everything out of that drawer. There wasn't a lot there, but a few things definitely needed to go. And I'm finding in this room, I just needed to rehouse a lot of the things. They were just in the wrong place, but it made it pretty easy that I've been going through this space literally every single day. Now, this desk area is another area that needs really routine maintenance. And whether you have a kid's room or this is your own desk, one of the things that I would like to recommend you to do at the end of every single day is to clear off your desktop. Yes, you're going to feel so much better the next morning when you come back to work at your desk and it is clear. It just helps have a fresh start. And so I went through all of the paperwork that I found on top of her desk, and I ended up recycling quite a lot of it. If there was any really nice artwork, I put that aside. I found this really cute story that she wrote about what cats are and why they're special, so I wanted to show that to you all. So any paper that you actually need to process, take care of it in that moment. Stop putting it off. And also, don't be afraid of having everything recycled or in the shredder that you're no longer using. I did wipe down this surface as well because it was really sticky, and I noticed that that frame needs to be rehung. But as I said earlier, we're not going to focus on too much more than just getting the tidying done during this time. And I'm really pleased with how much more tidy this space looked after quite a short amount of time working on that space. I had the intention of doing my entire house today, but I'm 3 hours in, and I think that that's about the point when I'm gonna have to stop, but I can't wait to show you all of the progress that I've made today in just this short amount of time. So here's a look at all of the donation items. I have some people in mind that I'm going to directly give some of these things to, but you know me, I'm going to be posting this to Buy Nothing and also scheduling a free donation pickup for myself. Oh, it's also all these bins here down on the ground for anything that remains, because I don't want this to be a thing that I still have to do on my to-do list. Then we also have this whole area here. This is all trash. So these are all things that I wasn't able to donate. All in all, this really wasn't too bad for 3 hours. I got through a lot of spaces. I got through my kitchen, I got through my bedroom and bathroom, I got through my kids' bathroom and one of my kids' rooms, as well as a linen closet. So pretty good for 3 hours. And there's only a couple spaces that I'll still need to do, but that's gonna have to be for another video. Hope you have a good day.